Nigeria opens subscription for February savings bonds. Africa Export-Import Bank commits $100 million into export development in Africa. Crude oil rises to its highest point in 2019 amid supply cuts. The program is Business Express, coming to you from our Abuja studios. I am Musa Abubakar. Now let's bring you up to speed with business developments. The federal government of Nigeria, through the Debt Management Office, has offered for subscription the federal government bond, the 2-year FGN savings bond due February 13, 2021 comes at 12.05% per annum rate, where the 3-year FGN savings bond due February 13, 2022 is at 13.05% per annum. The operationalization of the newly created Fund for Export Development in Africa, FIDA, has moved into high gear with a disclosure to begin investment activities in 2019, with a target to invest $10 million during the year. It was also targeting to raise $450 million in foreign direct investment during the period. FIDA, a wholly owned development-oriented subsidiary of the African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim Bank, has been set up to implement the bank's equity investment program by providing seed capital to companies in Afrexim Bank's key focus sectors, including agribusiness, manufacturing, consumer and retail, financial services, technology, travel and tourism, transport and logistics, and industrial parks. It will invest across all market segments, but will have its greatest focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. The long-term objective of FIDA is the provision of equity capital and related financial and non-financial, as well as support services to operators in Africa's tradable and support sectors, with emphasis on activities that support intra-Africa trade and value-added exports. The fund, which has been set up with an initial $100 million commitment, will also seek to leverage on the role Afrexim Bank has played in mobilizing trade finance into Africa to also mobilize foreign direct investment into the continent. Addressing the pre-incorporation meeting, Professor Benedict Orama, chairman of the board of directors of FIDA and president of Afrexim Bank, said that the fund will expand Afrexim Bank's offering to include vital equity investment that will boost intra-Africa trade. FIDA will be headquartered in Mauritius. In the wake of renewed vigor to breach the debt-to-GDP ratio while sourcing more revenue to meet developmental plans of the government, this edition of Business Express will be looking at the workability of these plans. But that will be after this background report, and Leah Katumba Batunde is our guide.
Just like every government around the world, the Nigerian government depends on revenue to thrive, without which it cannot function. Government revenue accrues to the federal, state and local governments, and naturally from various sources, with tax being the ultimate. However, over the years, problems around inadequate tax mobilization have hampered revenue collection, resulting in slow revenue flows. The federal government says it is prioritizing revenue generation as it intends to continue significant investments in human capital and critical infrastructure. Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed said these plans, coupled with tighter coordination, monitoring within and among ministries, departments and agencies, and key fiscal functions, have placed Nigeria on a positive trajectory. Government also plans to continue to tie all interventions to the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP). For the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma Udoma, the Nigerian economy will continue to maintain its recovery despite tight conditions. He projects that with the improved coordination of fiscal and monetary policies, exchange rate stability, improved oil export earnings and capital inflows, as well as the continuation of the current prudent management of foreign exchange reserves by the CBN, inflation will trend downwards to a single digit. Oil prices are currently trending upwards, and government is assuring Nigerians that there is no cause for alarm with borrowing as it still remains within the fiscal limits. However, looking at the political terrain, continental business status, and global economy, experts say much more needs to be done to deliver on the projections for the year.
Fabian Ogore joins us to probe further into the issues raised there. He is a principal consultant and strategist at Icon Path Research. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Okay, government is projecting a 5% growth projection, and is that feasible? And what are the parameters capable of making that possible?
5% projection is totally feasible.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I would have suggested the government should project a 25% projection.
Why?
Now, if you look at the oil price, the oil price is on the increase. Right now, crude oil sells for $60 per barrel. And if you've studied the government has put parameters in place to boost production in agri and exportation. So that would equally bring in revenue to grow the economy. And then, of course, the FIRS boss, Tunde Fowler, is doing a great job.
Okay.
They exceeded their expectations with regards to tax collection for last year. And, of course, they would increase their tax collection for this year as well. So 5% is totally reasonable and doable. Don't forget also that after the election, right, the fears that are associated with insecurity and all of that would reduce. So there will be inflow of FDIs into Nigeria. So 5%, I think, is totally doable.
You actually agree with 25%. Why?
25. You see, if you want to grow an economy, you have to do a high projection. And so that if you don't meet the 25%, you can at least do a 10%. Okay. Well, I guess the government is being conservative because of the year. It's an election year. So I suppose they want to be conservative just so that whatever turns out at the end of the day, they still would meet the 5%.
Okay, what's your take? International partners are projecting 2%.
International partners don't run our economy.
Okay.
They don't even understand our economy to a large degree.
Okay.
So I guess the government projecting a 5% is totally reasonable.
Now, the target to get inflation down to a single digit, how realistic is that?
That, I would say, would be a tough one. Okay. Because the Nigerian debt profile at the moment is pretty high. Beyond the debt profile, our production capacity in terms of manufacturing is low. And, you know, inflation is affected by several factors, demand and supply. Now, we have a high demand for goods that are imported into Nigeria. And of course, you know, the tariff, the custom tariff is pretty high, so importers are a little slow with regards to what they bring in and how they sell. So the demand is higher than the supply. So going to a single digit might be a little tough, but it's doable still. If we can pass...
On a short or long run?
On the long run, yes. We can get to a single digit. If we can put all of the indices in place, ensure that our manufacturing is improved upon, ensure that you know, circulation of currencies is managed properly, which is one area CBN is doing a great job. CBN is fantastic with pulling out funds from the system, and that balances out equation. That's why currently we have just 11.44% inflation rate compared to when we had 16.2% during the recession.
Okay. You earlier mentioned about the Babatunde Fowler exceeding expectations. And on the other hand, there's the large number of Nigerians that are actually outside the tax net. Now, how would you assess the situation?
Fowler is doing a great job. The man is well grounded in tax collection. He's had a fantastic track record, and he's done exceedingly fantastic within the short time he's been the executive chairman of FIRS. And the way Nigeria is right now, evading tax is tough work because you can go to prison for evading tax. So a lot more persons are beginning to develop confidence in our tax regime, and they are beginning to see that their monies are not being frittered away through corrupt practices. So more businesses are more willing to pay their taxes. Individuals are more willing to pay their taxes. So yes.
What about the number of people, number of Nigerians outside the tax net?
A lot of them are coming in because a lot of education is going on. The tax office, the FIRS, is expanding its operations across the country. In the FCT alone, you have more than 6 locations where the FIRS, collect taxes. So yes, and then with technology, the FIRS is doing a better job with tax collection. More persons are more willing to pay tax.
Okay.
So
now let's look at trade. How would you rate Nigeria's trade neighbors? Oh, with our neighbors.
I think we have a fairly cordial relationship with our neighbors.
Okay.
From the Niger to the Republic of Benin. We have fairly good relations with them, and we can equally improve on that relations by making our customs work together. Because if we can balance that end, then of course a lot of losses that goes with smuggling would not be the case as it is right now. But we have a fairly good relationship, cordial relationship with our neighbors, even on the Cameroonian end as well, the Chad end. So yes, I think Nigeria is doing great there. We can improve on it though.
Okay.
We can look at areas where we can collaborate because, of course, Nigerians supply gas to our neighboring countries, right? We can collaborate in such a way that instead of we do a long import from China and the other part of the West, we can import from these guys.
Okay. Persistent smuggling. What do we do about that?
Smuggling is a big problem. It's one that has been, like you said, persistent with regards to how to solve it. I have done some thinking with regards to smuggling, and I think that to curb smuggling, we have to look at reality. Reality is, why do these guys smuggle? They smuggle because they don't want to pay custom duties. They don't want to pay custom levies, right? And why don't they want to pay custom levies? So they will have competitive edge. For instance, if I can get a bag of rice in Cotonou for 8,000 naira and sell it for 18,000 naira in Nigeria, a 50 kg bag of rice, for instance, right? I would rather do that than buy from anywhere else, outside of, this West African state. Now, these guys who smuggle, it will shock you to know that they also pay money to move their goods into Nigeria. So what I would suggest to the government is, if the government can lower tariff for certain products that are coming from neighboring states, instead of us losing close to $1 billion that we lose currently with regards to smuggling, we can have those money come into the coffers of the government, and that would increase the revenue generation of the government. So my suggestion really is, reduce tariff from certain goods that are constantly smuggled into Nigeria from the different routes, whether it's the semi route or the other routes, okay, even the northern end route as well, not just the western, southwest route. Now, if you can reduce the tariff, right, reduce the tariff, these guys will bring in this product following through the right channel and paying the custom levy. Because we have tried to ban and it hasn't worked. We've tried to train custom officers. Some have been even killed as a result of this smuggling. The smugglers, today we know they carry guns themselves, and they smuggle at night. So reduce the tariff. The smugglers, the same money they pay to the guys who help them to smuggle becomes about the same amount of money they pay to the government. So smuggling will die. That's what I think.
Okay, what's your projection for this year?
Projection with regards to the economic growth?
Yes, economic
I
growth.
do not foresee a very high economic growth for 2019 because this is an election year. And an election year always comes with certain uncertainties with regards to security, with regards to who comes in to power, whether the current government stays or a new government comes in. Like you already know, there is capital flight from Nigeria. I mean, the stock market is experiencing some lows because a lot of investors are pulling up money. And but after the election, I can assuredly tell you that the economy will take off, because the whole concentration of Nigerians and foreign investors is how would the election turn out. So my appeal to INEC, to the security agencies, and to politicians is, please let's have a peaceful election, a free and fair, credible election. If we can have that, trust me, our economy after the election will take off, because we have so much potential in this country, which is why some of us are here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Fabian Ogori, for your contribution.
My pleasure.
Now, moving on, let's take a look at commodities are faring. The Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development has revoked 4,176 mining titles between 2011 and 2018. The ministry in a report said that 908 mining titles were revoked in 2011, while 548 were revoked in 2013 and 250 in 2014. 1,529 were revoked in 2018. The report said the revocation of the titles were as a result of failure on the part of licensors to meet up with the required obligations as stipulated in the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act 2007 and the Regulation 2011. It said the justification and major benefits that the government derive from the exercise include the removal of dormant and unused titles in the mining cadastry office mineral title database. According to the report, the revocation has helped to reduce to the barest minimum the level of speculation and discouragement in the sector. The report said it also helped to ensure only genuine investors had access to the mining field, among others. The Nigerian Stock Exchange has called on shareholders to query directors of their companies whenever they discover any impropriety in their financial statements. The Chief Executive Officer of TINS, Mr. Oscar Oyema, assured shareholders that the exchange will continue to protect their interests by ensuring that companies complied with the rules of the stock market. Reacting to a question on the issue involving the defunct Skybank PLC with respect to investors' protection during his media briefing at the exchange in Lagos, Oyema said the exchange has done a lot to protect the interests of shareholders, but because it is an open marketplace, shareholders themselves have responsibility. Again, waning investor confidence drags down the benchmark index of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Let's have the details with Muplanda Kok.
After closing high in the previous 2 weeks, equities on the Nigerian stock market recorded losses to close in red in most trading sessions in the week. The all-share index and market capitalization shared 2.51% to close at 30,636.36 and 11.424 trillion naira. This translates to a week-on-week decline of 297.7 billion naira in market capitalization. A total turnover of 1.452 billion shares worth 14.788 billion naira in 19,318 deals were traded by investors. Also traded during the week were a total of 668 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 58,897.50 naira, executed in 21 deals, and a total of 4,336 units of federal government bonds valued at 4.308 million naira traded in 26 deals. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of the NSE Oil and Gas Index that rose by 0.05%. A total of 16 equities appreciated in price during the week. 50 equities depreciated in price, while 102 equities remained unchanged.
Meanwhile, at the close of trade this Monday, equities on the Nigerian Stock Exchange advanced Monday to begin the week in green. The all-share index went up by 0.35% to close 30,745.05 basis points as market capitalization increased to 11.464 trillion naira. Global stocks ended Friday upbeat following impressive jobs data by the U.S. and rising oil prices. Let's join Amina Nujem for details.
African equities closed mixed for the week Friday, shaped by political, economic and financial developments in the continent. Kenya's Nairobi SE20 and Namibia overall appreciated more than 2 points, while South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Tunidex and Ghana's JSE Composite ended in negative territory. In the United States of America, Dow Jones Industrial Average posted slight gains on Friday to close the week after U.S. government released job growth data that easily beat expectations. The 30 stock Dow rose 64.22 points to 25,063.89, posting a sixth straight week of gains, its longest since November of 2017. The S&P 500 closed 0.1% higher at 2,706.53 as gains in the energy and tech sectors offset losses. The Nasdaq Composite shed 0.25% at 7,263.87. Major European stock markets closed the week higher on Friday. German DAX, FTSE 100 and CAC 40 ended sessions in positive territory. Stocks in China made strong gains despite the country's manufacturing data came in below expectations. The Shanghai Composite rose 1.3% to close at around 2,618.23. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index slipped 0.04%, while Japan's Nikkei gained 0.07% at 20,788.39. That wraps up global market reports.
Let's see how the Naira is trading alongside other major currencies. On that note, we conclude this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so don't forget to reach us via email businessexpress@nta.gov.ng. You can also Communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is BeastApps. Have a fruitful week ahead. I am Musa Abubakar.